Okay, part two. So hopefully, whoever I lost, if you're out there, hopefully you come back. And if not, then maybe you'll catch the second part of this. So, okay, the question I want to pose to you is, what would you do if you didn't have to worry about whether or not you could actually function and enjoy your life? What would it look like to start over? What would it look like to take all of the skills that you have, which you have so many of them, and begin to employ them in the service to your own bottom line, so to speak? And what I mean by that is simply this. What does it look like to have a life that actually supports you in ways that allows you to sleep at night, that has the same weekends free, if you have weekends free, and chances are you probably don't, that allows you to invest in yourself if you wanted to take a different kind of class, if you wanted to do something that brought into your world knowledge and learning in a way that just felt good and easy? What would it look like to have time freedom? Because the myth of academics, at least, is that you have time freedom. And the myth of most jobs is that you have time freedom. And that's what I'm trying to talk to you about, is what would it look like to actually have time freedom to do things that were important to you? You know, I think I've said this in my last video. Dr. Kelsky talks about this too. The fact of the matter is that we attach so much worth to the higher ed jobs that we're given because we feel like somebody has graced us with that. And the reality is that you've earned it. If you have a job in higher education, you worked your bum off to get that job. And you have so many skill sets that allow you to do that job and do it well because you have to wear so many hats. And so what would it look like if your priority was not just the love of teaching, but a livable income? A way to actually enjoy the life that you worked so hard to give yourself and not feel like you've got to be the sacrificial lamb to that life because someone has allowed you in the front doors. And I think it's really important, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say it, and people are going to push back, and that's okay. I think it's really important to remember that academia doesn't survive without the teachers. And yet the teachers are the very first ones that academics throws under the bus all the time. And so what if what was more important wasn't that you loved necessarily what you did, but even if you did, that'd be great, but that love had to support itself. It's like we say about a hobby. You can have a hobby as long as you can pay for it. Well, why don't we say the same thing about a vocation? You can have a vocation as long as it pays you. As long as it pays to play, it can stay. If it doesn't pay to play, it has to go. And so if it has to go, then you have to ask yourself, if I am still 10 years post PhD, either I'm adjuncted or I'm in a assistant professorship, and I am, if I wasn't married, I wouldn't be able to, or we're together, two academics, and we're barely making it. So many stories that I have. But if you are 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, and you are still not making a livable income. And when I say a livable income, ladies and gentlemen, what I mean is this. It is not a livable income if you can't enjoy living. And I don't mean those occasional breaks when you're sitting in your study and you're reading a book and your papers are graded and your lesson plans are done and your classes for the next semester are filling up, or you're watching to make sure they fill, because if they don't fill and they cancel, then you're really screwed. I am talking about money in the bank. Money in the bank that you have put there by virtue of either a job that pays you not only a living wage, but bonuses and incentives, a business that you are starting because you know your worth, and you know that you can make infinitely more money running your own educational consulting firm because of all that you know, because of books that you've written that people actually want to read, that people are actually enjoying, and they're paying you to read them. Hello? They're paying you to read them because they like your writing. Not the stilted writing that nobody reads, but we can all sit around and say, oh, look, I wrote this and I stuck it in an academic journal. I might have got an interview or two. Hoo-hoo. What if you had a livable wage? What would it look like to get up and breathe into the knowledge that all of the work that you put into getting the education and the experience and the knowledge and the know-how actually paid you back for a change? Actually paid you back for a change. Like I said, if you love what you're doing has to love you back. And part of that love has to be a livable wage, a livable return on the investment of your time, effort, and energy, on your attention. It is so difficult to live high vibe, right? You are not going to live high vibe when you're literally tracking to see if the classes are going to make so that you can teach. Because if you don't, because then what's going to happen? It's difficult to live when you enter a profession that literally says, we're going to pay you on day one $59,000, which sounds great. $59,682, which is the average. But we're not going to pay you on anything. We're not going to give you any bumps in anything for the next 6 years. 6 years, y'all. 6 years. When you love something so much that you're willing to be in poverty for it, you have to ask yourself, do you really love that thing? Or do you love what you think that thing brings to you? Do you love the patina of it, the shine of the professorhood, the shine of whatever it is that you love? I'm only speaking of higher ed because that's the world I come from. But when you love something so much that you are willing to live in poverty for it, then you're not really in love with the thing that you're doing. You're in love with what people say about you doing it. I mean, there's a lot of pull in the ego, right? When we do something that we love and we're languishing at it, but we love it. And people are like, oh my God, she's a teacher. You know, she teaches third grade and she buys all her own supplies and she drives a beat up 1992 Honda Civic and she's just a martyr for the cause. But God, we love our teachers. If we love teachers, we'd pay them better. Okay? Bottom line, if we loved teachers, we would pay them better. So please remember that the love affair that you may have with the thing that you are doing for a living has to return something on your investment of time. It just does. And if it's not doing it, if it's not giving you at least a living wage, it better give you some really good perks. So what are the perks? Summer's off. Every teacher I know works in the summer. Every teacher I know, except the ones who have married teaching and administration or some other kind of academic thing that pays better. Something, usually administration. They work in the summer. They can't afford not to. Every teacher that I know works year round. Period. Summer school, winter, summer sessions, part-time jobs, waitressing. Come on now. Waitressing. Teachers who are waitressing to make ends meet should be the national disgrace. They should be on us, not on them, on us. If you are literally working 2, 3, 4 jobs because the profession that you are in doesn't love you enough to pay you, you got to ask yourself why you're doing that profession. What is it that's keeping you there? Because your love is making you hungry. And nobody wants to be hungry. And so like I said earlier, I don't want this to be, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, I've told you some of the things that you can do, but I wrote some things down. Because I really want you to understand why I'm telling you that if what you are loving is not giving you a livable wage, you need to bounce. You need to start again. You have enough skills, enough know-how, and enough knowledge to be able to start again and not even have to go back to school again. You can start again. Okay. So I told you about the salary lag. Oh, and the cost of tuition went up 46%. Teachers ain't seeing a dime of that money. Nope. Not a dime of that money. But by the way, executive pay at higher ed level, and this should make all of you upset. Executive pay is so high, it can't even be tracked. It can't be quantified anymore because executives, because that's what they're called now, boards of higher education, the board members, all of those people, the presidents, the CEOs, the COOs, their compensation packages are so big now that they can't even be tracked anymore because of all the things inside of them. So tuition up 46%, executive pay not even able to be tracked because it's so big. Teachers' salaries have risen 1% in 3 years. What could you be doing? Let me tell you. So I just did a perusal. I just went online and perused through some things. And I thought to myself, what would be the criteria? If I were in education right now and I was like, I'm out, I'm bouncing, but I can't just bounce willy-nilly. And I need benefits and I need incentives. I want to be able to work and I want to be able to go home at the end of the day. And I want to have a life. So there's a job called contract curriculum writer. For my adjuncts out there who maybe are used to working contract and are used to having maybe their benefits not be exactly stable, but hang on, because this works for you. You got to speak Spanish. Okay. This job, contract curriculum writer / editor, pays $40 an hour. It's a full-time contract position. It's remote. Don't even have to leave your house. Okay? Don't have to leave your house. It is a remote position. It's 12 months with option to renew. $40 an hour at 40 hours a week, standard 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, is $76,000 a year. $76,000 a year. $76,800 to be exact. Now, you mean to tell me out there that if you have been languishing at academic pay with benefits, okay, let's not even get to the benefits that you have to pay for, because that's another racket altogether. The fact that you're paid like crap and you still have to pay into your own benefit. But that, I digress. So let's just, say if you're languishing in an academic bracket where, let's say, your salary was $62,926, because that's the average of a starting salary for an instructor position. That's an average, which means there are people who are making a whole lot less. Assistant professor positions on average start at $83,000 on average. And let me explain to you how that number is not accurate. I did not ever have a position in academics that started me out at $80,000 a year. Never. You know why? Because those universities that would start out an assistant professor between $80,000 and $85,000 a year are R1, Tier 1 schools. The competition is fierce, fierce. They have the cream of the crop, the pick of the litter, and there are way more of us than there are of those jobs. So let's say for grins, however, that you are an assistant professor and you are sitting at around, $60K. So you might go, or $62K. All of a sudden, you could be at $76K with a set schedule, and you could work from home, which means you could go to bed at night. You could have happy hour with your girlfriends. You might even be able to go away on the weekends. And you're like, well, what about benefits? There's this thing called Obamacare that could be really helpful. If you start thinking, you remember, you have done the impossible. You have gotten through grad school. You have gotten through school with 3 degrees, living on a shoestring. What would it feel like to exhale and go, I can go to work from my couch all day long, and I could potentially stop working at 5 o'clock, and I could have dinner and watch some torrid TV, or I could work on that novel that I've been dying to write for years. I could go on vacation. I could start a whole business. I could do any number of amazing things and still make better money than I'm making right now. That's for the first job I found. There is another job for my K through 12 people. Don't think I was going to leave you out, because I'm not. I got you. Educational consultant, full-time, employer paid healthcare. Here we go. Employer paid healthcare. Public school teachers on average start at $63,000, $645 a year. I know public school teachers that started at $48,000. 48. And that was in good school districts that had money and good property taxes that supported those schools. 63 is probably working in New York or California. It is not working anywhere in the Midwest or the South. Educational consultant, K through 12, starting salary, $55, full benefits paid full time. As an educational consultant, imagine getting paid for what's in your brain that you already know how to do, that you love, and you get a freaking full benefit package, work full time, and you don't have to buy supplies, and you're not being a nurse and a social worker and a babysitter and a disciplinarian and all of these things that you don't actually have time to teach because you got to do all this other stuff, and you get paid a living wage. Now, $55,000 may not be a living wage depending on where you live, but it's a living wage if it comes with some peace of mind. It's a living wage if it comes with bonuses and incentives. It's a living wage when all of your health care is covered. It's a living wage when you're not spending hundreds of dollars every month out of pocket to supply your classroom with things that the state simply doesn't have the funds to give you anymore. So I'm going to start to wrap this up because I don't want this to get too long, and apparently I'm going to have to splice two parts together to make one long video. But anyway, here's what I want to say to you. There is no shame in recognizing that it's time, that there is a switch that needs to flip in your life that says, I'm worth actually more than I'm getting. And though I may love this thing, I may really have loved this thing for so long, the beautiful and powerful part of me that requires more than I'm getting needs a chance to stand up and say, enough. Enough. People are scrambling to see if they can get their student loans taken care of, because that is such a huge part of why so many people can't leave their jobs. They can't move on to do something else. They can't pursue anything else because they're making so little money anyway, and their student loans are killing them. Well, let me tell you something. What if they don't forgive your student loans? What if you still end up having to get that payment? Well, then what I tell you is this. You take that payment down to the bare minimum that you can pay, and you dream about and you make plans to start over, doing something that pays you a living wage, gets you closer to time freedom, and allows you to live the best years of your life and enjoy them. Because none of us want to end up like the adjunct professor who literally died in her seat with nothing to show for it. She didn't own her own home. She was still an adjunct after 25 years. She had no pension, no savings, no nothing. I don't want that to be you, and neither do you. This has been Dr. Sasheen. Hopefully you found something useful in this message. Please pass it along to other academics or K-12 teachers that you know need to hear this, and allow yourself to dream about the possibility that a living wage and a good life with time freedom and a room to breathe is in fact a lot closer than you think. Thanks again. Please like and subscribe to the video to get more notifications, as I'll be posting more here, Facebook, and here YouTube. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Good night.